The program on this DVD was taped in an auditorium instead of a studio setting. Yet it was done under studio conditions, without an audience, and with the option of redoing any part of the program. What was the advantage of using the theater rather than a studio for this project?
Well, I believe that I was very lucky to be performing in this amateur theater because of the acoustics. To me personally, I'm so concentrated and so involved in the performance with the composer at my side, as it were, that I really don't care where I'm playing. But if I'm informed that acoustically this makes better sense to perform in a theater rather than in a studio, then of course I'm delighted to be able to do so.
Some say that your playing has always been marked by strong individuality. Do you agree with that assessment?
Not at all. I would say that a lot of people who go to concerts and listen to some of my colleagues or whoever it may be, whatever instrument, it could be piano, there is a certain concept or tradition to play a work in a way which everybody imitates. And after a while, it becomes almost like a tradition to play it this way only and no other way. When I look at a piece of music, at a score, I have to admit that I see things differently than some of my illustrious colleagues. I can't say why, but I'm trying very, very hard to be as faithful to the score. When I'm playing on that stage, it's not about me. I would rather people would forget who is on the stage. My main concern and my one and only mission is to play to the people and get them to recognize the genius of the composer. I want my audience to share with me in my admiration, and as the Americans use one expression which I borrowed and which I think is so appropriate because it embraces everything. It's awesome. That's the word I'm using. To see and to hear, after I have studied the score, what these incredible geniuses composed. I can never get over this. My admiration is overwhelming and boundless. I feel as if I would be only a tool to express what they composed. The creator is my main goal. So I'm trying very hard to persuade my listener to forget about me, to forget who is doing it. All I want is to be as faithful to the composer as I possibly can. And this is not a criticism, not at all, because I do respect and admire some of my colleagues very, very much. But I'm doing something entirely different. This is why I think I'm not the individualist here. Not at all. I'm not trying to be an individual. On the contrary, I think some of my colleagues are. I'm just trying to be as simple as possible and project everything to the utmost of my ability, what I think the composers composed.
You started your career as a child prodigy, and your career has spanned several decades. In that time, there have been profound changes in what we call the music business. In your opinion, what are the most evident changes? And are today's students and young professionals adequately prepared for a career?
Well, you have just hit the nail on the head. to me, music was never business. It should not be considered as a business. That applies to everything else except the arts, because music is art. Everything else is art when it relates to painting or sculpture or literature. Why should it be business? However, I'm not sure that we have to consider that the current era and the current society where we now live is that much difference. I suppose even in the era and the centuries when Beethoven lived, or Mozart or Brahms, it was also business, because they had patrons who asked them to compose in a certain way which would enable them to support these composers. So it was business. And I would imagine that they were asked to compose, we know this for a fact, that Mozart had to please some duke or some royalty in order to get his music to be published. So it was also business, because he had to make a living. Things have changed, in my opinion, for the worse, because possibly in those days they recognized the genius of the composer and some of the performers, perhaps. I didn't live those centuries ago, so I really can't say for sure. But now the quality of the performance or performances has deteriorated, because it has become only business. Whoever brings the audience, this is the one who gets to be engaged. So a lot of it, unfortunately, because art has become visual more than audible, people are influenced by what they see. Movements on the stage play a very important part. So it's the quality is of not that much concern to some of the presenters, which is very sad. I maintain that you can combine business. Why not make business out of a true talent? I think it's possible. So maybe lack of knowledge, lack of vision applies to some of the presenters who really don't care to present some very talented individuals who could also not necessarily be very good looking, because that should not come into play. It's only the performance. But with a lot of promotion, and you always have to find some gimmick, I suppose, to attract audiences, maybe one could kill not only one bird or two birds, maybe all the birds with one stone. So I think that should be the goal and the aim. It's really true that people are looking for business, and how to attract audiences back into the concert halls. That's a very, very difficult issue, because if some presenters rely only on looks, well, we don't stay young and gorgeous forever. So that's a problem. When the looks go, so goes the artist. So it's a very temporary situation, which maybe some people could change if they are willing to do that.